Radio Free Santa Clarita presents The Talk of Santa Clarita, a podcast about issues involving Santa Clarita and the surrounding valley. With your host, Stephen Daniels, episode 151, author and conservative spokesperson, Victoria Redstall. And now, let's see what the Talk of Santa Clarita is.
And remember, this is for posterity, so be honest.
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for doing this today. I do appreciate it.
Very welcome, Steve.
This is a new thing, socially distanced. We're 6 feet away exactly, and outdoors. The outdoor version of the Talk of Santa Clarita. It's kind of like open theater, or something like that, open outdoors thing. So I wanted to have you on the show, and I appreciate you doing it. I wasn't sure if you would because of my reputation of being a little bit of liberal. But you were willing to. Why? Tell me why you were willing to do the show.
Because I think we are all in this boat together. Liberal, Democrat, Independent, Republican, we're all in the boat together. So when I get the opportunity of someone interviewing me, I think I have gone through such hell with the fake news back in 2006, as you know.
You keep saying that,
Yeah, and it doesn't usually ever rear its head. It did, 2006, 2007, and 2008 when my life was ruined. So if you wanted to give me the opportunity to actually now finally have a platform, because back then there was no platform, no Facebook, no Twitter, no nothing. It was just what we as Republicans would consider the fake news, which was MSNBC, CNN, which were all the shows I was on. I've now got a platform to defend myself, and now I've got a huge body of work, many careers, but one career being the one that came from the fake news that I love to talk about, and you're giving me the opportunity, so I appreciate that.
In other words, 60 minutes to talk about yourself, why not?
Why not? I hope it's longer.
I can tell from your accent you're not from around here.
No, definitely not. Very English. I'm very, very English.
Where in England?
I'm from the south part, a place called Surrey, which is 25 minutes south of London.
The south of, okay.
Yeah.
Went to England for our honeymoon and loved it up there. I loved it out there. It's so expensive. Don't you think? I mean,
yes, it is expensive. I mean, London specifically, very expensive. So.
Is growing up you grew up in England, right? For your whole life, or you spent some time in Spain, right?
So, best country in the world. Yes, my heart
Spain
will always be there. Yeah, Spain. So yes, all my life, 18 years of my life, I grew up there. I'm proud to be English, and then my heart is in Spain.
How did you end up here in Santa Clarita?
Well, Spain was wonderful. I did modeling in Spain. I was a nanny for children. I was actually a nanny for the gypsies in Spain, up in the mountains. The people that don't steal, but the wonderful people of the land. Because some people think the connotation of gypsy means they steal. They're just poor. They're just poor. And I lived in poverty with them, but I learned the pure Spanish. I learned the real Spanish from the Spaniards. And there was no growth for me there. And I knew I was destined to do something on camera or tell stories, be a journalist, be an actress, and continue doing modeling because that paid my way as well.
Right.
So that's where I came from with Spain, but it stopped. Where could I go? I couldn't do commercials. I'm not fluent in Spanish. I couldn't be an actress in Spain because I'm not fluent in Spanish. So that's when I went back to England for about a month. But I knew I had to get out of England because it was just not what I wanted to live in. I didn't like the weather. So the land of opportunities was America. So I tried that for a while. And I really thought that because I had to keep leaving the country every 6 months, living in Mexico City, working as a model, doing commercials down there without speaking, but I did them down there in Mexico City because I had to keep leaving the country. I was told by the immigration, you keep doing this, we're going to have to cut your visa down to 1 month. And I actually won my green card in the lottery.
Oh, really?
And that is when I held it for 5 years to become a citizen. And then I was able to sponsor my parents by proving what I have in my bank account, that if anything went wrong with my parents, I was able to support them, which is how it should be done over here when it comes to immigration, because it certainly happened to me, proving that I speak the language correctly, all those things. And so I'm very thankful to this country, this great country.
Well, how did you end up at Santa Clarita specifically, though? I mean, why Santa Clarita as opposed to Long Beach or Hollywood or You know?
Well, I actually ended up here because my parents moved out to join me. I've always been on my own. I was at boarding school since 11, so I've always managed on my own, creating my own families as I go. Boarding school, and then America when I came here at 19 years old, the Sheriff's Department, which are still my family and always will be, LA County Sheriff. And my deputies, my friends, my family would say to my parents when they visited me, if you're thinking of living here, why don't you check out where we live, Simi Valley and Santa Clarita. And my parents looked around this area, and about 15 years ago, they settled here in Santa Clarita. And we've got so many of my friends living here, working here, living here. That's why it's very safe and very red. And
yes, it is very red.
So I've had I still was living in West Hollywood and Studio City, and what happened was my father has Alzheimer's. So I did leave a huge career out at sea. I was working in the ocean for 3.5 years, which I loved.
What did you do?
I was a port shopping ambassador for the Holland America line.
Okay.
Then my mother said, I can't deal with my father. Can you come back? So I would come back. I'd rented my home out in Studio City. And I'd come back for maybe a month or two. And then I would go off. And that's when I represented a wonderful jewelry line called Rusalite, which is a beautiful green, like an emerald, but it sparkles more than an emerald. And it's more actually cleaner than an emerald because emerald has the cedar oil. So Rusalite, I became the face of that brand. So I'd go off on Princess for a month and Royal Caribbean for a month, and then another cruise line for a month at a time.
I'm just wondering if I can charge them for all these plugs you're doing.
You can charge them for the plugs.
Yeah. So you've had a really interesting life, and I was really intrigued when I was reading your bio. One of the things it said was that when you were really young, you were a victim of several of your friends were from a mass murder. Can you tell me about that? What happened there?
Well, this is what became about me writing these 4 books and 45 TV shows. And what happened there was when I was 11, I just started at boarding school, and it was on my exeat. One day, I got to see my parents one day every 3 weeks, and my mother said, "Have you seen the papers?" And I said, "I don't, read much. I'm pretty bad about reading." And she said, "The Perkins all of them been shot." And the Perkins are our closest family. We would holiday with them in Spain all my life since I was 7 years old. And I said, just tell me Nick's okay. Nick was the father. Nick, his middle name actually was Nick, so he went by Nick. But his real name is Kenneth Nicholas Perkins. But we only ever knew him as Nick Perkins because he didn't like Kenneth. That's another thing the fake news did on me. They said something like I didn't even know his name. I do know his name. It's Nick Perkins. And he was my second father. And he was shot. But Gareth was killed. Gareth was like an older brother to me. He must have been, oh my gosh, I was 11, so he must have been 14 at the time. But he went to the door where this mass murderer had already killed a few people in the home, which is 35 miles away, and then he went straight to the Perkins
Why did he
house.
go to the Perkins house?
The mass murderer had an obsession for the boy at the school. He was a teacher at the school.
Oh, okay.
So he had an obsession for the boy, and Nick Perkins was the headmaster. And he said to this teacher, if you're going to continue your obsession, I'm going to have to fire you.
Okay, so it was revenge kind of thing on the
right.
employee.
But the guy stopped for a short while, and then he started back, and Nick said, I'm going to be firing you.
How many people did he...
He ended up killing 2, but shooting and maiming them for the rest of their life, 4, which would be Nick Perkins. Gareth was killed. That was the family I knew. But the other family in Hackney in London, the father was killed, and the boy's in the wheelchair the rest of his life. The teacher was named Paul Smith. It was a very odd, generic name. But during his obsession with the boy, changed his name by deed poll to Paul Osman. Let me turn that off. But Paul Osman, if you know... I mean, that's what his name was changed to. So I believe when he was arrested that he went to prison. He went to Broadmoor, which is one of the worst prisons and mental institutions. And that's what's called a mass murderer. See, this is what and then from the age of 11, I studied these mindsets.
Now, I'm just curious, somebody that's experienced something like that usually becomes anti-gun or, some type of gun control background checks and stuff like that. But you're a Republican, so do you support the Second Amendment, or do you think that any type of gun control should exist?
Ooh, that's a very good question. So I definitely support the Second Amendment. I mean, this is in the Constitution, which we don't have in England. So I definitely support the Constitution. We've got to have guns to defend ourselves. The bad guys are always going to get the guns. So I think that we, the good people, should have guns to protect ourselves. This guy, I don't know how he got a gun, because the cops in England don't carry guns. So this Paul Osman, I don't know. It has to have been illegally obtained.
Okay.
So I don't know. I was too young. I was 11.
I mean, like assault weapons, things like that. Is that something that...
That one is such a good question. I haven't got an answer for it. The assault weapons, I wouldn't own an assault weapon myself.
Right.
I think that they are necessary with the military and with law enforcement.
With the military and law enforcement is different.
Law enforcement.
But I'm talking about, like, people own AR-15s, as if it was sporting equipment, and that's really just a killing machine, the AR-15. If you look at most of the mass killings that have happened in the past 5 years, almost always it's used with an AR-15 or a gun very similar to it.
If you can pass every kind of mental check, and if you are military or retired law enforcement or current law enforcement, I think it's okay.
Okay.
But I'm not strong on my opinion on that.
Yeah.
So I don't really know how to answer you. I don't like the sound of them, but I think we should all have the right to bear arms. But just maybe
any
not
type of gun at all?
No, no.
Okay.
I'm not up on that. It's not my subject.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm just curious because I mean it just seems like that is the trademark of a lot of how do I say this? People that have been victims or experienced gun violence in some way usually become an advocate for gun control of some sort. So I was just curious as a Republican.
Yeah, no, I'm not because of that. I mean, it affected me all my life. This thing that happened, it was a tragedy.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't become an advocate at all. In fact, I'm the reverse, if you think about it, because I think that law enforcement should carry guns, especially with lunatics.
Well, I don't think anybody's disagreeing with you about that, law enforcement carrying guns.
But they don't in England, and I don't know if they do at all.
I thought they did now. Don't they? They don't do it now in England?
Haven't been in a while. Since my first book was released, I haven't been, I think, since 2012.
Let's talk about your books a little bit, because you did pick up kind of an interesting kind of preoccupation, I guess, with serial killers. I mean, would you say that?
Well, not really. I mean, the thing was, I've always, that's what I've read. I'm not an avid reader, but I would read magazine articles. I'd watch documentaries. I would try always to understand the mindset that can do what they did to our greatest friends, the Perkins.
Sure.
I wanted to understand how someone can go from an innocent child to being a complete monster. And that goes for mass murderers, serial killers, spree killers, one-time killers, crime of passion killers. I mean, this is you become a monster. If you're not killing somebody in self-defense, you are a monster.
How many killers have you met?
Oh my gosh, maybe 16. 16? I'm going to say
all serial killers?
16. No, a couple were mass murderers. That I find them difficult to understand more, the mass murderers.
Yeah.
You just go out and kill a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
Serial killers have got a lot more method to their madness, and I will say madness being the word here, because they have a victim type. And so I actually feel a lot more safer around a serial killer than I would a mass murderer, because they can just kill anyone. A serial killer has a victim type, and I've never fitted into the victim type of anyone I've interviewed, because they kill prostitutes, or they killed homeless gay men, or they've killed drug addicts. They've killed people who they feel, these are their words, not my words, who God doesn't want in society. That's what their mindset is. So if I don't fit into that, these people actually, they love their families, they love their wives, they love their children, they love their neighbors, they love their friends, but they have a deep hatred for the victim type that they choose to kill. So I was always trying to understand that.
So you actually sit down and interview them and try and understand, like do a breakdown of what they are about?
Why? Yeah. I mean, if a prostitute's done nothing to hurt you, why do you have this need to wipe out the prostitutes? You understand? I mean, most prostitutes, and I've met some, they have got a drug problem, or they've got some kind of an addiction. I mean, this is nobody's fault. Anyone can fall into an addiction. So I don't see why they deserve to die. They're not hurting people. And this is, again, where the fake news hurt me again, because they said I was siding with a serial killer because I wrote books on them. No, I wanted to write books on them because I have had very in-depth interviews with them to understand how they can become such monsters. Which one's
your first book? Let's talk about that.
I would say that one is my first book.
Serial killers, up close and
very personal.
We'll cut to the shot of it. And that tell me what it's about exactly. Is it just interviewing different serial killers? Or?
Yeah, five different serial killers around the country. Now, don't forget, I have helped homicide to close cases of ones that have been already in jail, maybe not gone to trial yet, or they've gone to trial but they knew there was something more victims out there. So that would be my favorite, because my gosh, it was the first one I did alone. These two I co-authored. This one was on my own, and I've had an editor, because I've never self-published, so my publishing companies are pretty much the top of London, John Blake Publishing in London, and Ulysses Press over here in America. And I was, really pushed, Victoria, you're not putting enough of the smell of the prison and the death row and the experience and the sound of the as they were bringing the inmate down the pathway. And I was just saying, they brought him to me, and I sat there, and I was, you've got to actually.
Were you nervous the first time you met a serial killer?
The first time I met a serial killer, I was very nervous. Yeah, that was, I think, 2006.
I can't help but wonder if it's a little bit like Silence of the Lambs.
It was.
Was it really?
Oh, it was just like that. I had no makeup. My hair obviously was tied back. I had a jacket up to here, and it was in the San Bernardino County Jail before he'd got to death row.
Right.
But again, I know the sheriff, so I got in on the side door on a Sunday, and maybe that wasn't the right thing to do, but I was walked in by a sheriff to this Unit 11, which is off limits to anybody, even if you're touring.
Do you get scared when you talk to serial killers?
No, not anymore. But I did. I did the first one. I thought he could reach through and grab me. I was very scared. And that's with my first book. My editor said, you've got to put that fear into it, because I wasn't showing the real fear I had. Since then, I can sit down with them, and they don't suddenly snap. Sometimes a mass murderer or...
Have you ever been in a situation where one snapped?
I've never been in a situation where they've actually snapped, and they have a lot of respect for me, because they see women, females, Madonnas or whores. They don't have the middle ground. So thank God I've always been the Madonna and never the whore, because there's nothing in the middle. Regular men like you probably see women as Madonnas, whores, and then the middle area where... So I'm always going to be the Madonna.
Don't get into my psyche.
No, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But no, yeah, he I would say, no, I've not had them snap. I've had one guy, he was a black guy, he's still a black guy, called Chester Turner, the Southside Slayer, LA County Jail. He was also a gang member. That was a tough thing. That wasn't where I was scared. I was scared because he was a gang member. And he wouldn't put his hands on the table when I talked to him. And I was so afraid that he was grabbing his willy. And I always dress professional when I go into prisons and jail. So it's not like I was wearing anything sexy. But I would say to him, and he's 300 and something pounds, 6'4".
Yeah.
I said, now, Chester, put your hands on the table. Man, I do what I want to do. I can do what and he was known to be extremely controversial. He would rip the sink out and create a flood throughout the men's central jail. I mean, he's rough, that guy. Really bad. He got a big scar right across his face. I said to him, listen, if you don't put your hands on the table, I'm not coming back here. And we had this whole thing, and I actually had left the door off. He was in the infirmary of the men's central jail, so you can actually have longer. It's not as strict. Although the sheriffs were giving me a lot longer with the Grim Sleeper. This was all at the same time. I think 2010 and 11. So the Chester Turner would not put his hands on the table, and I actually didn't go back for about 8 months. I mean, how stupid was that? I was going to do a book on this Grim Sleeper. It was going to be the 3 black serial killers, because black men aren't usually serial killers. And I had the 3 in the men's central jail at one time. I was morning with Grim Sleeper, Lonnie Franklin. I was the middle of the afternoon with Chester Turner, and then I was in the evening with John Floyd Thomas.
Does that get in your head at all?
No.
I mean, that was like the big premise of Silence of the Lambs, about Hannibal Lecter getting inside Jodie Foster's head, Clarice Starling's head.
Those guys didn't get in my head as much. I'll tell you why. Because they weren't admitting a thing. Don't forget, they were in the jail. They weren't sentenced yet. They were going to trial. Chester Turner was brought back from death row. He'd already been sentenced to death. So I don't know why they brought him back, but they brought him back. What got into my head was when they were already on death row, and then the description. And then, I put myself in the shoes of the parents of these prostitutes, or the sister, or the daughters of these victims.
Yeah.
And and I've met them all. And I'm thinking, I can't imagine life where you have a family member that's taken from you in such a brutal way.
Yeah.
That got in my head, and that caused me pain. And then, I'll tell you what really got into my head was the trial of the Grim Sleeper and the trial of Wayne Ford. So those are the 2 trials I covered every day in the courtroom. And to see the pictures of these innocent people that had been completely ripped apart and cut up, some of them, was something you never get out of your head. You cannot unsee that. And that's what's horrific. But I had to maintain professionalism and realize I'm there to do a job. I'm there to tell the story from the serial killers, why he became a monster, the cops, hopefully the victims' families, and so on and so forth.
Wayne Ford, is that the one that the LA Times did the story on?
That's the first one, because you see, when the LA Times made up the story, the fake news, this woman, I say that with quotes, and we'll get to that later, she's no lady at all. I mean, she was ruthless.
Okay, well, let's backstory, just so our audience knows. There was an article in the LA Times about you meeting Wayne Ford, and the article which I read, which is available online, it kind of implied that you had kind of a offbeat kind of relationship with him beyond just being doing interviews.
Which was horrible, because back then the fake news was not known to be the fake news. Since then, of course, law enforcement and Donald Trump have been major victims of the fake news.
Yeah, we'll get into that, I'm sure.
Right, I had no platform. There was no Facebook, there was no Twitter, there was nowhere I could defend myself. And every time I tried to defend myself, I went on a fake news station like MSNBC with Joe Scarborough. I wasn't political back then. I trusted him. And I didn't realize, under the screen, friends with serial killers. I've never been friends with a serial killer. If they want to call me a friend,
well, what was your relationship
fine.
with Wayne Ford then? I mean,
it was a professional relationship, but I would go in because I went in the back door because the sheriffs knew me. I went in and I said, listen, Wayne, make sure you don't talk to anyone else. I want exclusivity with you. Exclusivity is important when you get commissioned for a book, when you get commissioned for a documentary, and that's a lot of money I was making. And I wanted to make sure that don't go speaking to anyone else. And of course, this woman couldn't get in the jail. She knew no sheriffs. She's with the LA Times. She certainly couldn't get any response from the serial killer because there were so many blocks. Yet this girl, me, sitting next to her in the courtroom, who she was so nasty with every day, she didn't know my real name because I didn't want anybody in that courtroom to know that I'm a model, an actress, TV host, and that I'm a public figure. The only person who knew my real name in that courtroom was wonderful Judge Michael Smith, and he kept my privacy private. I did not want that exposed.
Okay.
And originally, I wanted to do the documentary off camera.
So
I didn't even want my voice on.
Right, but so you're saying that she was writing this article that she wrote about you and Wayne Ford based on a certain kind of jealousy on the fact that...
Yes, I would say.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why, because she was so nasty with me every day.
Yeah.
And I'd always say, oh, good morning, and she'd look away. And so I just carried on. I was doing all my notes, you know, and she would do her notes, whatever she did for the LA Times, because she was doing, I think, the story on the thing. And then one day she was suddenly nice to me, and that was the day after I was put on the stand and my real name was exposed. And I am the only Victoria Redstall in America, obviously, and probably the world. And she suddenly was really sweet. She says, how about, Victoria, I do an article on you, and that will promote your documentary, your book, whatever you're doing.
Right.
And I thought, oh, because I'm very innocent, because I'm English, I'm European, we don't have all this jealousy over there, we don't have these ways. Well, we didn't when I grew up. So I don't know what it's been like 20 years ago. But right then when I grew up, we just didn't have that. So I trusted her.
Well, what was not true in the article?
Oh my gosh. She said something like obsession. I've first of all never been obsessed with anything at all in my life. Okay. I've been on the receiving end of obsession, and that's a scary place to be. I've had a lot of men obsessed with me and stalk me.
Did you share Dwight Yoakam songs with them, as it said in the article?
You know what? That part is true. And Dwight Yoakam and the dance, there is a song, because he said he could sing. So I said, oh, you tell me what you can sing. And I happen to like country music. So he would sing something. I forget that song now, but I know exactly what you're saying. Well, you've got to bond. You've got to bond with your subject. Right. I have bonded with everybody I've interviewed. Sure. That's law enforcement people high up in law enforcement. That's politicians. Sure. That's serial killers. That's prostitutes who are victims that lived from the serial killer. I have bonded with them. Yes, I have. I've sung with women who were prostitutes, and I've talked to them. I've bonded with them. I've met their children. I've met their families, because I get close to human beings as human beings. Right. I compartmentalize. So yes, I think I did. I sang those 2 songs, and I love to sing karaoke. I am no singer.
But, okay, so just so we're clear, because you are saying fake news. Now, what I want to understand is, though, I mean, what was an actual lie?
Oh, the lie was I said something about wanting to make Wayne Ford a star. I haven't read the articles for years, believe me. I'd like you to challenge me. I'd like you to ask me what you read. Well, but the star, there's no serial killer is a star.
My question, I guess, is, was it so much that there was an actual lie in the article?
Yes.
There was.
Well, there was a lie. The lie, I never said the words, I wanted to make him a star. I never said the words that...
I don't think that's in the article.
Oh, it's not? Okay, good. Well, no, because what happened was, it was what made it worse was the LA Times cited everything. You would agree that it was biased. And
I don't know if it was biased. I think she took it from her perspective on
she knew.
Look, from her perspective, she doesn't know who you are or anything, and let's face it, talking to serial killers when you're not, say, a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever, it seems a little odd. I mean,
she didn't know that I had family friends that were lost when I was
No,
11.
I know, but I mean, even then, I mean, it's still kind of like, I mean, I find serial killers fascinating too. I don't go hunting to go talk to them. You know,
I didn't hunt. That's another thing. She'd say I was hunting to talk to.
Yeah.
It was not my thing at all. I was commissioned to do it for a documentary.
Okay.
I was paid money up front to sit in that courtroom every day and schlep out from Studio City or West Hollywood, where I was living, to San Bernardino every day to go to the courtroom and then tell the story and write it down and submit it back to my boss, and then go to the jail in the afternoon, evening. I have a way with things, yes. So yes, actually, she did slant it to the point of lying. I wish I had the article in front of me. But what happened was the lies came with the Inquirer, the National Enquirer, and the Globe, and all these. It became the model and the actress. The model and the serial killer. The actress and the serial killer.
I don't think you can count the National Enquirer as legitimate news. I mean,
we're talking just LA Times. I wish I had LA Times. Yeah. Let's just say that they would say Studio City actress flaunts bond with killer. I've never flaunted a bond. I sat quietly in that courtroom, going under a fake name in the courtroom, not the jail. I was under a fake name because I didn't want anybody, least of all someone like that, to know my real name and to know that I actually make a living doing a very opposite kind of career, and that's an on-camera career. I did not want this documentary to be on camera.
Right.
And it turned out, because I then became part of the story, because then I was on the stand, then Joe Scarborough wanted to help me, and we'll make sure that you can put those fires out, from what the LA Times woman said. And I just could never I was digging myself deeper and deeper into a hole. And those tapes are out there. I'd love to see them again. But if you can remember anything from that article, because I can't remember, because it was so twisted.
Well, the Dwight Yoakam story.
That's the only thing. So yeah.
And I mean, and I also do remember that apparently when he was caught, he presented the breast of one of his victims in a baggie.
That's true. That's true. But that's nothing to do with me.
But no, it doesn't. I mean, this is what stuck out when I was reading the article. And there's. It does imply that you had an unorthodox relationship with
LA Times. Let's consider the source. Okay. Let's consider the source. Thank God it's now known to be fake news. It's known to be extremely Democrat. Now this woman, I think she works for CNN or MSNBC.
Okay, she works for CNN.
Okay.
Pause there for a second. You said because it's Democrat, it's fake news. Why is that?
Not always.
Okay.
I don't know why. You ask Donald Trump and you ask law enforcement how they can so cleverly twist something. Twist it. I mean, Donald Trump goes through this every single day of his life.
Donald Trump doesn't lie?
I've not heard him lie. But I mean, Democrats will say that. But I want to go back to me. I want to go back to me. I'll get there with you. Okay. I want to go back to how my life was ruined in 2006, 2007, 2008. I was a spokesmodel for Lamborghini. They had to let me go because my last name was associated with a serial killer, which is associated with Lamborghini.
Yeah.
They had to let me go. I couldn't get myself arrested. I couldn't get a job. I lost my livelihood. And I can't sue. Now, people say to me, why did you not sue, Victoria? Number one, I'm an English girl. We don't think like the LA people who want to sue everybody.
Yeah,
that's number one. But number two, I was a public, and I am a public figure. You can say whatever you want about a public figure with no recourse. Look at Donald Trump. He's going through it every day, as I keep bringing him back. So what she skewed it like there was a romance, because people don't look like me.
I'll say that it does imply that there's a romance.
It does, and that's what she wanted. She ignored everything I said.
It makes it more salacious. I'll give you that. So.
Thank you. It made it more salacious. I went out to Humboldt County with a film crew to look for a head that was buried, I think 4 feet below, down. That was my goal, is to identify the victim. And I sat there and I said to this woman, I said, I've got my film crew going out and I hope it's going to get enough exposure. And I'm behind the camera. At this point, I was planning to be behind the camera to get enough exposure so that a whole load of cops will reopen the case and find out who Jane Doe was, one of the victims of Wayne Adam Ford. She did not write any of that. She did not write a thing. So the sad part is I happen to be a model and I happen to be an actress doing commercials, infomercials, TV shows, and because of that and what I look like and my great fun personality, which I'm known for, it doesn't quite go with getting into the mind of a serial killer. But in actual fact, it helped me to get into the mind of a serial killer better than any psychiatrist could, because a psychiatrist is going to put that serial killer in a box and say, now tell me about your childhood. Did you have a messed up? When me, I'll go in there and say, oh, my damn car just broke down on site. I cannot believe this. And then you won't believe what happened with my fiance. He then thinks the car's my fault. Anyway, how are you today, Lonnie? So I am always opening up myself. And that gives a person, whether they be a politician, a law enforcement officer, or a serial killer, or whoever I've interviewed in my wonderful, exciting life of 20 years of a great career, that gives them the opportunity to bounce back and say, God, I used to have a car like that. And now they're already open. And that's what I say is a bond. And I've had a bond with every single person I've interviewed and people I'm interviewed by, because I do have this magnetism and I love it. I'm not going to
talk really fast, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I always meant to slow it down.
I am told I do the same thing sometimes, so it's no big deal. It's just like, wow, that's a challenge. Keeping up with you. So
I'm bonded with you right now.
You're bonding with me right now?
I mean, before we began, that's why I like to have this little chat with you. I know about your family and little things like that, and how you look 25 years younger than you actually are. So I mean, I got to know you. I know little things that we said before. That's what I would say is a bond. Well, this woman would take that as has to be a relationship, because she's a model bonding with a serial killer and singing in the jail. That makes it huge, and it ruined my life.
Well, did you confront the reporter? Did you call the LA Times? Did you say that this is not true? Did you anything like that to them? Or, I mean, did you make any effort to have her correct the story?
Oh, she wouldn't correct the story, so there was no point. It would be falling on deaf ears. I mean, that would be falling on deaf ears. There was nothing. It was already out there. I don't have any vindictiveness in my body. I don't have any. I don't usually fight back. Now I'm a little stronger because I've gone through it. So did I go? No, I think it was too late. And also, people said, well, you're a public figure. You can't. There's no recourse for you.
Right.
So I probably didn't. I
want to talk about fake news, but first let's go through your books here and just talk about each one. The first one you said, A Serial Killer's Up Close and Very Personal. That's one about Wayne Ford. Is that the one?
Wayne Ford, Gary Ray Bowles, Bobby Joe Long, Keith Hunter Jesperson, and Robin Gacht. Robin Gacht is a bit of a prick in Illinois. I flew out there to see him, but I actually don't think he is what they say he is. So there's a guy I saved from execution 3 times in Oklahoma because he's not a serial killer, but he was I would believe, an innocent man. I'm going to say on chapter 5 of this book, I'm not going to say he's innocent because I think he's a little prick, but I could see why he was railroaded by his employees and law enforcement of Cook County, because I know Cook County, Illinois, they were very corrupt back then, and I believe they're pretty corrupt now, and I'm very pro law enforcement, but I do know in the 80s that guy was probably railroaded. So, yeah.
What about the Grim Sleeper? That one is, I'm familiar with the Grim Sleeper serial killer. So you've written that?
I wrote that, and that's when I took even my father to come and interview Lonnie Franklin with me. That's why I thanked him in the book. He, of course, does not remember. He has Alzheimer's. But, Lonnie Franklin was in the Men's Central Jail, and because of my wonderful 26-year history, as of today, with the LA County Sheriff's Department, back then it was 2010, so with 16-year history, I was given much more than the 20 minutes you're allowed in the high-powered line to visit high-powered inmates at 1700 blocks. So I was given 3 lots. So I had an hour with him every Thursday. His wife had an hour, 20 minutes with him every Saturday, because you're only allowed 2 visits a week, a Thursday and a Saturday. So his wife had 20 minutes and I had an hour.
Voices of Serial Killers. Is that just straight interviews, or?
That's similar to another one over here. That's with Robin Gacht, Bobby Joe Long, Keith Jesperson. So it's just similarly written, but not as personal as that one. These 2 were co-authored. So the ones that were co-authored, I did less of the work. I just gave the co-author, who was in England, the footage, the audio footage. So he put it in his words.
I see.
These 2 were written all on my own, just though with an editor. And this probably took me 5 years to do because of the trial and the arrest and all. And this probably took me 2.5, 3 years every day of work.
Well, the last one is the one I love the title the most, the Cannibal Serial Killers.
That was co-authored.
Now,
co-authored. I don't even think I've met them. I mean, that was just research.
Just out of curiosity, as somebody who has written several books and interviewed several serial killers, do you date much?
So I've had the most wonderful relationships.
Yes.
And in fact, funnily enough, my ex was a criminal lawyer, and I met him because I was in the courtroom every day in the criminal courts building on the 9th floor. He was defending a gang member, and the only reason I broke up with this wonderful guy, Philip, gorgeous man, my family loved him, my friends loved him, was because it was an election year and he is a Democrat. I should have known that when I realized he was a defense lawyer. But we'd had such a great friendship through the trials, his and mine, and then we'd go to lunch all the time, and then he asked me to dinner, and he's so good looking, and I like older men, and I like men who are short, but they got to have a gorgeous face, that we just fell into a relationship, and politics was not the thing. And now I realize I don't want to break anyone's heart anymore. I've broken too many wonderful men's hearts. So I am not going to be with anyone until I am sure that everything lines up. They have to be Republican. They have to be slightly older than me.
Yeah.
They have to have a gorgeous face. They have to have a little bit of a tummy. And not too tall. Just, I know what I want, but I have to be friends with them for a while first.
Sure.
I'm nothing like these LA women.
I just wonder, with dating these days, the first thing they're going to do is do a Google search on you, and it's going to come up that you've written all these books about serial killers.
Oh, it's never been a problem. I went out with a homicide detective for about a year. No, this has never been a problem because, thank God, there is nobody that believes in the fake news. In fact, when I was doing my first documentary back in 2006, I was in a relationship with a news anchor, and Glenn would say, "Are you kidding me? They're saying this about you. What absolute crap. You should go and give them a piece of your mind." But I was with him the whole time. He's on Channel 5 every day. I'm not going to say his last name, but he's an anchor, and he was on Channel 9 when I was with him. And I was doing the weather. I did the weather before that. So that's how he met me years before that. So, I mean, I've had some wonderful relationships with some wonderful men, and that none of them have ever believed in the fake news. It's only been a company that said they didn't know me when these very, very slanted, untrue articles came out. And that was just 2006, 2007, and 2008.
Okay. Now, let's talk about fake news, your perspective on that. You're very insistent about all news, basically, or most news being fake.
Yeah, not One American News and not a lot of Fox News. Fox News is kind of changing, but
Fox News in general right now, you're saying, isn't honest.
I would say, especially Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, and Sean Hannity. I mean, it's,
they're not. They're commentators more than pundits. They're
changing a little bit. I love my Fox News. They're changing a bit. No, I sometimes watch CNN, but the way they slant it. I mean, I'll give you an example. The guy in Atlanta who a couple of months ago, this cop was accused of killing the guy in the back, shooting him in the back.
With the Wendy's, yeah.
End of story. Yeah, outside the Wendy's. And that was how they left it. And I am pulling my hair out and wanting to throw something at the TV because that might have happened, but they're not saying exactly what happened. So here's the real story. Yes, you're right. So this is where the news was right on me with the serial killer stories about what they said. But here's where it becomes completely wrong and now slanted so untrue that it becomes a lie. The guy in Atlanta, the cop in Atlanta, he's, I think, 45 minutes talking to this guy who was unarmed, a lovely black guy, unarmed. He dropped his girlfriend off and he'd fallen asleep in the Wendy's parking lot, okay? Somehow things transpired and there was a kerfuffle on the ground. A cop came in, so now there's two cops rolling around on the ground with the black guy who was stopped for drunk driving because he was asleep in the car. It was at that point that the subject grabbed one of the law enforcement officers' guns. So now we've got the subject that is now weaponized. He's got a weapon on him.
But let's stop for just a second here.
Yeah.
And on the other end of it, I think most people would understand if the guy grabs a weapon.
Yeah.
The cops have to react. I'm a big Joe Friday Dragnet fan, so I believe cops. Every day they're putting their lives on the line. But on the other end of it, did it ever have to scale up to that situation, to that level of a situation? For example, he's asleep in his car. He's not driving. He's not doing anything. He's asleep in his car. Let him sleep. Or, just let him go back to, he says he's fine, put him back in his car and let him sleep. Obviously, they were doing something more than just talking to him for it to escalate to the level that it did. Wouldn't you say?
I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that I think is the problem there, is that the way the cops handled the situation beyond whether he grabbed the weapon or not. I mean, you don't agree with Black Lives Matter. But or
not the movement.
I
think Black lives are as important as white lives.
That's what I meant.
That's an organization. It's the movement. The movement. But what they're doing, they're destroying this country. But no, we'll go back to that one.
They're destroying the country.
Ooh, we'll get back to that one. Not that I'm in charge of the interview, but I do want to get back to the guy. So now he becomes weaponized, right?
Yeah.
So now, and another reason I did this interview with you, because you said it wasn't edited, and I like that because I can't be twisted, and that's what they did with me on the fake news.
I'm not going to twist you.
I know, and I appreciate that.
I'll let you speak for yourself, Victoria.
I do appreciate that, but this is a point. So he was an unarmed black man. I don't know why they have to mention color, because I don't see color, but they did. Unarmed black man now goes to not only being armed, he's fighting with the officers. He threw punches on both of them. He now takes the cop's weapon. Now he's an armed guy. Forget the color. He's an armed man. And not only being armed and running away, yes, he leant back to actually now he's shooting at the law enforcement officer.
I don't think that's correct. I don't think he shot back at him.
With the stun. Oh, yes, he did. And that's why he was shot in the back. That's the only time a cop is that is within their rights to shoot someone in the back is when the subject or the suspect is going to aim a weapon at the cop. Now, if that stun gun had hit the cop's head, he is now incapacitated, and then anybody could have got his gun at that time, because he'd have had a stun gun in his head. And none of that was mentioned on the local news, and I don't believe that was mentioned on CNN. But it was very clearly explained on Fox as to why it escalated, how it escalated. It's always a cop's discretion. The cop could have said, go back to sleep, or here's, go and take a taxi home and leave your car here overnight. But a cop has every right to, when your keys are in the ignition and the car is running, which it was, that a cop has a right to say, he was very respectful, that, you know what, now I'm going to place you under arrest. And that's what happened, and that's when it escalated. That's the cop's discretion. Whatever he does, he's fine with. But it was when that man became armed. And I don't know why they have to say black man or white.
I'm not sure your facts
cop.
are accurate, but I'll look into it and follow up on the thing. But let me blow your mind for just a second. Okay. Is it possible that MSNBC and CNN are actually the ones telling the truth, and it's Fox is just telling you something that's to what your opinion on things is? In other words, maybe Fox is just telling you what you want to hear.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, is it possible MSNBC and CNN are right?
It's quite possible that's right. I'm just going on what I saw and what I read from the local news and Fox News, and what I saw. You watch the guy actually lean back. It's all, it's all circled, where the weapon was. So you're right. Absolutely, it's quite possible. That's why I'm open to hearing both sides. But a video camera doesn't usually lie.
Well, they did shoot him in the back.
Because he was pointing the weapon at them directly.
I don't think that's correct. But
and
I will look. I will check it, and I'll follow up on that. So, let me ask you this. Why are you a Republican, first off? I guess, where does that philosophy come from?
Conservative values. All my life, my parents have been conservative, and my parents were on conservative committees.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was too young at the time. But conservative values, I came to the country the right way. I'm lucky enough that I won the green card, because I would have gone definitely back to Spain. I married a matador, had 10 kids. So my life would have been different. But no, I believe in the fact that a country is a country with borders. I believe that if you have a country, like in Spain, I learned Spanish because I was in their country. And in Mexico, I'll speak Spanish. I would never speak Spanish in America, because these people want to speak their form of Spanish. I sometimes go to a doctor's office and it's like I'm in Little Tijuana. It's a disgrace.
Why?
I think there's two genders, male and female. But I also have many gay friends and transgender friends. And my transgender friends, they go from being a man to being a woman, or being a woman being a man. There's no such thing as 1,000 other genders. But I give you credit if you are transgender, because I love my transgender friends, because they wanted to be in the other body, because there's two genders.
I want to go back to the Little Tijuana reference. Why is that?
Disgusting.
Why is it disgusting?
Because a Little Tijuana should be in Tijuana. Los Angeles should be Los Angeles.
Because they're speaking Spanish, that bothers you?
How disrespectful to
How
speak
is it disrespectful?
like this is a country speaking English. If you don't speak English, then go back to the country you came from, or learn the language. Because there are people that make an effort here, like I made an effort in Spain. But I wasn't going to be able to end up speaking in Spain if I didn't learn
There are
Spanish.
those that would say that this country welcomes anybody. It welcomes immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants.
I'm an immigrant.
And to become a citizen, there's not an IQ test. Now, English is one of the hardest languages in the world to learn. Okay, I think Japanese is the first or whatever. But if you mandate that someone has to learn the language, which, by the way, English is not the official language of this country, but if you mandate that, then basically you're creating an IQ test for someone to become a citizen. Now, is that right?
Yeah, because I think that if I hadn't proven myself to speak Spanish, they could have thrown me out, or if I'd extended a visa or something like that. If you're going to come to this country and not assimilate, not learn the language, and do some other things, live off the system, a lot of people. Then you've got an example like that. Then you've got an example of Mike Garcia, whose father came here from Mexico, came here legally.
Yeah, but Mike and I've had this conversation. That was a long...
But there's plenty of Mike Garcias. There's plenty of great, strong, conservative values, conservative people in this country that actually are immigrants, like myself, like a lot of people from different countries, because you make an effort to fit, to conform to the country that you're lucky enough to live in. And if you don't have any if you don't have any respect enough for the country and to not learn the language of the country, then go back to your country.
What if they're not capable of learning the language?
Then you go back to your country. Then you make it work in your country. Because this country is filled. We are up to here. And now people are milking the system.
Learning a language is like, like, what if they? I mean, you might as well say, well, you know, you have to know chemistry to be, you know, it's like some people are not capable of learning certain things.
Okay, then make it work in your country. If I refused to learn Spanish living in Spain, I would totally understand them saying, well, you've got to leave. You can't even speak the language of our country. You've got to leave.
I don't get that. I don't get why is it wrong for someone to speak a different language in this country? I don't understand why that bothers you.
It doesn't bother me. I think the languages are beautiful. French, you know, Spanish, Italian, Japanese, Chinese. But when you're living in an English-speaking country, just learn the English as well. And if you're with your friends and you're having a little dinner or a barbecue, speak your language if you want to. Yeah. But, I mean, none of this, press 1 for English. I will be on the phone for an hour before I'll ever press 1 for English. Thank God I'm moving to a red state. I won't have as much of pressing 1 for English because I won't press 1 for English. And I won't ever go to an all-gender restroom. I do not stand up to pee. I'm a lady. I'm a girl. Not a woman. But I just am nothing like the mentality of the Democrats. I'm nothing like the mentality of California in general.
What is the mentality of a Democrat? Tell me that.
It's just saying all genders. Like there's lots of different genders. The mentality of a Democrat, there's no rules, no law and order. You don't respect your not you. A Democrat, no, not you, I didn't mean you, my gosh, do forgive me. But no, a Democrat, you don't respect your elders, you don't respect law enforcement, you don't respect teachers. Now, in schools, for little ones, thank goodness I chose
where
not
do
to have
you get
children.
that, though? I mean, I'm a Democrat, I'm a liberal, and I just told you I believe in that cops put their lives on the line every day, that I love Joe Friday and Dragnet. I mean, so I'm right there, I'm walking in contradiction of what you just said.
How many genders are there?
How many genders are there? There's male and female, but there's also people that can identify as female that were born male or vice versa.
Oh, yeah, there's 2 genders then.
Right.
You know, and I do, as I said, I respect my transgender friends enormously.
Yes.
So yeah, they can identify as that, and then they all have the operation, or they all live a life as the other sex.
Yes.
So there's really 2 genders.
I believe in, recognizing the
so
gender
we agree
that
on
a person,
that.
I believe in recognizing a person under the gender that they identify with.
Do you think children under 7 years old in schools should be taught about all kinds of sex and about how they could change their sex? Do you believe in females who are pregnant that say, I don't know if I'm having a male or a female, yet clearly on the ultrasound you can see they've got a willy? A willy means you are born a man, right?
Yes.
And if we have innies and we have outies, I'm an innie. I was born an innie, and thank God I carry myself as a lady, not a woman, a lady, because I have an innie and I have to respect that. Very different to where a man is. So conservative values like Black Lives Matter, God bless the people who formed that, because their intention was correct. But actually they should have changed the name to Black Lives Are Precious, because I personally think a black life is as important as a white life, a brown life, and a blue life.
Well, I think that's the point of the movement, though.
I know, but they said the word matter. Like, you know what, that piece of leaf on the grass there, it matters, don't do it. Or that frog right there, his life matters. It's a dismissal. I think it's wrong. And that was the intention to start with. But what happened was the movement took over, and they are destroying this country right now.
How are they destroying
in the name
the
of Black Lives Matter.
How are they destroying the country?
Setting fire to precincts, police precincts, sheriff's departments, police cars.
You know what?
They're smashing buildings.
I got to stop you there, because every time that there's a mad bomber that had a Trump-covered bumper stickers of Trump covering his van, and he was sending pipe bombs to liberal people. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm told, well, that's just one person.
That's a lunatic. Yeah,
that's a lunatic. Okay.
Plenty of lunatics on both
sides. You put 5 to 10, 20,000 people out in a protest for Black Lives Matter and against the George Floyd killing, you're going to find a couple of bad apples.
A couple?
So, well...
This is like the 79th day just in Portland. The cities are being destroyed. All the cities that are being destroyed are Democrat.
That's propaganda put forth.
And Chicago's okay, you know, killings. Little 5-year-old boy, never got any coverage. That little boy, the Casey, I think his name is, 5-year-old killed by a black guy. You wouldn't think to say the words that.
What you're doing, though, is you're saying that because 1 or 2 incidents have happened, that all 20,000 people of the protesters are all setting fires to the thing. That the movement itself isn't important, or that they're all anarchists because a few have chosen to loot stores or burn buildings.
If it was only a few, they'd be outnumbered by the good people. What it seems is, with all this going on and then cops being defunded, it seems that it's the majority.
Why are you against defunding the police?
Why? Because cops need more funding.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you interpret defunding the police?
They want to put it into, I think, poor neighborhoods, and they want to take from their earnings and they want to take from their special units, which we really need, special problems unit, special victims unit, sex crimes against children. There are special units, detective bureau.
But that's not what defunding the police means.
Well, that's what it means to them. I mean, was it 15 million has been taken away from Austin Police Department?
It's been reallocated to other things such as social programs.
Social programs.
Well, if there is a situation with domestic abuse or domestic violence of some sort, does that necessarily need to be brought in? Do cops need to come in, or is it someone who can de-escalate the situation, like a professional counselor, be better? That's what defunding the police is about. It's reallocating money to things for people more specialized for particular situations. You don't necessarily need a policeman to go get a cat out of a tree.
No, that I agree with. Hold on, let's go back to domestic. 273.5. 273.5 is domestic disturbance. Any law enforcement officer will tell you that is the most dangerous call that they have. Mm-hmm. So for a 273.5, you've got a social worker going in because the man is beating his wife, which he could have a gun, he could have a knife, whatever. That's what we need.
I get what you're
for.
saying, I'm one to believe that it's a situation where you need a social worker and a cop. You know, it's two people there.
So now you're going to put two lives in danger, and the social worker.
Well, you're going to put two lives in danger anyway if it's a dangerous situation.
Hugely, but at least cops are armed. A social worker's not. She could get the cat out of the tree.
But the social worker might be able to de-escalate the situation where nobody's in danger.
Okay, but that's after everyone is separated.
And they're better at that situation than police are.
Quite possibly, but it's always at that moment things are escalated. Now, when the cops are called for a domestic disturbance, it's really at fever pitch. After they've been restrained, then call in the social worker. But you need law enforcement. I need law enforcement. I would not be here now without law enforcement. God bless my LA County Sheriff's Department. But I would not be here now without them. And I bet there's a lot of other people that could say the same thing. And it's sad because these young children who've been indoctrinated, that are with Black Lives Matter, I don't care what color they are, because a lot of them are like 93% are not black. So they've been indoctrinated by Black Lives Matter. They don't realize, what if their grandmother fell? She'd call the cops, to help her. Or if somebody was breaking into their mother's home.
Do you need the cops to come help an old lady get up?
Okay, that was a bad example. How about if their mother was being robbed? Their black mother, white mother.
You call the cops, yes.
You call not a social worker. We need cops. And I know...
With most... Okay, but if you look at the, I just saw your earrings.
The Trump earrings.
Yeah, Trump earrings, 2020. But if you look at, and you're a friend of law enforcement, so I'm sure you would probably agree with this, is that most of what police deal with is not necessarily robberies and murders, but more like domestic situations, cats out of trees, things that are a lot more trivial that they shouldn't have to be with. They should be dealing with robberies, killings, and things like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the defunding the police is prioritizing money so the cops don't have to necessarily deal with that. So I think, I'm not trying to flip this on you, but I think your interpretation of defunding the police is misconstrued.
I know for a fact, though, that those 150 million that was taken from Austin, it's going to cause 100 law enforcement officers have just lost their jobs now. That's for sure. But in other areas, the special units, the ones sex crimes against children, as I said, or all the detective bureaus, everyone is going to be cut back, whether it be through their hours, whether it be manpower. That's how they say it, and that's what it is.
Replaced with something else that might better suit the situation.
How could it be better when you have less manpower and you're a law enforcement officer trying to protect a very out-of-control country?
Well, we're going into a bit of a circular argument here on this, but it's based on the idea that, you don't need the cop to get the cat out of the tree.
But that's very rare when that happens. Right now, we need more cops than ever. So actually, we need to be more funded because of the way the country is with all these terrible riots and protests in the name of Black Lives Matter. So there are some lovely, peaceful people who've been indoctrinated in or who started it. They have, and they really think that it's dangerous. I mean, do you know that we're Santa Clarita, Nate? We live in Santa Clarita. Do you remember about 4 months ago, Antifa and Black Lives Matter were threatening, and believe me, because you've got the captain here, Captain Diaz, will tell you this firsthand, that they were threatened with their station being burned down. They were threatened with all their vehicles being burned down. We were threatened that all our local businesses would be looted. We were threatened with all of that. So
You're talking about the Black Lives Matter protest that ended up being 100% peaceful.
And let me answer your question,
Guard.
because what you've just asked me is, Victoria, why was that peaceful? And I'm going to now answer you. So yes, with all the threats on law enforcement, then of course Donald Trump sent in the National Guard. And not only that, SEB.
Well, Santa Clarita City Council did.
Right, fine, but it still came from Donald Trump. SEB, that Special Enforcement Bureau, is exactly the same as SWAT for LAPD. SEB is sheriff. They were on the roofs of that sheriff's department. They were there. National Guard was there. And that is why...
It was mostly kids, though.
Right,
I mean, it was
but
mostly
I don't mind
kids,
who it was.
Unarmed kids.
Right.
Why was that necessary?
Why? Let me answer your question. Because as I just said, the captain of the sheriff's department will tell you, Captain Justin Diaz will tell you that they were threatened with the sheriff's station being burned down, with all the law enforcement vehicles being burned down, with our businesses being looted. That's what they were threatened with, and they had to protect themselves by bringing in the National Guard and bringing in SEB to be on the roofs of buildings.
I'm sorry that the cops are that scared of a bunch of innocent young kids.
Well, look what happened in Minneapolis when they didn't bring in the National Guard, when they didn't have excess law enforcement in the streets. They burned down the precinct. They burned it down. They burned it down. So what it's like is actually these little idiots, and I said it before and I will say it again and I won't apologize, the idiots who threatened us here in Santa Clarita, those idiots is like threatening to set fire to that building there, and you see all these fire trucks up outside with hoses. You're not going to go for that building because it's well protected. And what happened was, but with all the threats, that great wonderful Captain Diaz made quite sure that everything was in place so it didn't happen. And it didn't happen because everything was in place to stop it happening. And that's why, I don't know who threatened, but it was people from, they said, Black Lives Matter and Antifa. And those were the people I was talking about when a video I did went viral. That's who I was talking about, the ones who threatened violence against our great Santa Clarita community.
Now, when I hear you talk, it makes me think about what I see in the difference between liberals and conservatives are. You know,
okay.
It strikes me that you almost, the assumption is being made, talking about the Black Lives Matter protests, that these people were out to definitely hurt people, that they were out to burn down the police station.
Not all of them. Not all of them.
Okay, but the assumption is that there are people out there to get you. You know what I mean? You said so yourself. You should be able to have a gun, protect yourself, and granted, you've experienced some horrific things in your life, but. Here's the way I see it. I think liberals see the world as a beautiful place with a couple of bad eggs. I think conservatives see the world as a horrible place with a couple of good eggs.
Oh, we're such positive people, us Republicans. No, we just want to make sure that everything is above the law and people follow the law. Black Lives Matter, I'm going to go back to them. There are a lot of peaceful people in Black Lives Matter. There's a lot of peaceful people. So I am not generalizing throughout the whole movement.
Yeah.
I am saying that there's a majority that are burning these cities down and hating cops. And they put BLM on all of the police cars. And you can't take that away from them. I'm not saying that everybody in BLM, Black Lives Matter, are anarchists. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
But they are mixed in that pot. So they've got to understand that they can be generalized against as being a movement, a hate group, and that hate white people. So the racism
Why
really...
hasn't the KKK been listed as a hate group?
I don't know many KKKs that are burning down any... And you know, I've never met a KKK, because I think that if they were in...
Well, you're not in the South.
No, I know, I'm
you
going to
will
go there.
when you move.
I'm going to go through Mississippi, and I want to meet the KKK, because I think that the KKK are as bad as any hate group. So if the KKK had threatened Santa Clarita to come up and burn down the sheriff's station and burn down the police cars and loot the buildings, I would say, who are these disgusting white idiots, and I'm white idiots with their white hats trying to threaten violence? They are just as bad as whoever the BLM are, whoever they are that were threatening the violence. And I think the KKK are a bunch of lunatics. The KKK. How dare anybody see anybody's skin color for what it is? I judge people. Yes, I do. I judge the way people behave. I'm not saying that I'm godlike and I judge people who goes to heaven, who goes to hell.
Right.
But of course, I judge women, and I call them women if they sleep around. Of course I'm above them, because I would never behave like that. I judge people who commit violence on people, who break the law. Of course I'm above them. They put themselves below me. We're all children. We're all equal when we are born, no matter what color, what religion, whether we're poor or rich, what sex we are, we're all equal. It's how we behave in life that is worthy of being judged. And I do judge people, and I'm not afraid.
Do you think black people have every opportunity that the white people have?
I think that, look at Ben Carson. Look at Larry Elder. I saw his movie yesterday. Larry Elder, go out and see Uncle Tom.
Floyd.
Look at George Floyd. He held a gun to a pregnant lady's stomach after breaking into her home. Then who did?
George Floyd is the one that was murdered in Minneapolis.
George Floyd didn't hold a gun. Have you seen Candace Owens explains his rap sheet?
He did not have a gun.
George Floyd did a breaking and entering. George Floyd, the guy that was murdered by a cop, a bad apple. He was murdered. George Floyd did not deserve to die on that day in the middle of the street. I feel horrible for that poor man. I feel horrible for his children, and I feel sorry for his wife or girlfriend at the time. They lost the man that they loved, okay? I do, I really do. But this very man that was killed by a murderer, a murderous cop, was also the very same man who had a rap sheet a mile long, who also had broken in, I think he just come out of prison.
I'll check that.
Please check that out.
I don't know if that's
a pregnant lady's home and held a gun to her stomach. This is George Floyd, the one with the mural on the wall. But the 5-year-old, I'm going to say color because it seems to be that's what everyone's talking about is color. 5-year-old white little boy didn't get any recognition on any of those news stations except One American News and Fox News. When a black man, his neighbor, targeted him because of that one reason. So it doesn't get exposed. I do want you to check on that George Floyd thing.
I will look.
And I do want you to check on the Atlanta police officer outside the Wendy's.
I'll look into both of those.
Yeah, you could re-interview me after this because I love the fact that we're challenging each other because I didn't mean to challenge you. I just want to get my point across.
No, I'm trying to understand. That's my whole point of things. I don't get a lot of the ideology of conservatives in a lot of ways, and sometimes I think it's based on. Well, you say you watch Fox News, and I kind of go, well, that's a bias that they have admittedly a bias. So, to me, I feel like maybe you just haven't seen the perspective from other areas. I mean, I used to be a Republican, and then changed my perspective after I started doing some research on a lot of stuff. And that's not to, blow off Republicans or disregard them in any way. It's just that I just see it differently now, But I tell you what, let's change the subject a little bit. My kid has a question for you.
Okay.
His question is.
Hi, Victoria. My dad says you're not a feminist. Do you believe men and women are not equal?
Yes, I believe that we are so different.
Yeah.
I am the anti-feminist. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Okay.
I am a lady. I am a girl. And because I would say women and feminists and people who are jaded with life, people who have slept around so that they hate men and they are equal, I want women's rights. I'm sick of all these women's rights. I'm sick of all this Women's Independence Day, or what do they call that day? Women's Day. If there's a Women's Day and you want to be so equal to men, then where's the Men's Day? Why is it always in a divorce that the men get raked through the coals?
This is not it's in the same sense that there's a Black History Month, because blacks by just the culture and for 400 years were slaves. They're not recognized regularly for what their accomplishments are. In the same sense that there's a Women's Day, because women have been fighting for equality for a long time. It's just been 100 years since they've had the right to vote. The idea that there's a Women's Day is in recognition because it's almost necessary, because they haven't received the recognition that they have in the past. That's what that's for.
But
do you disagree with that?
No, I understand if they want to fight about that. I think that we've come a long way. Yeah. And it's like you're talking to like Ben Carson or Larry Elder is not going to say, I'm a victim of being racistness and I was a slave in my ancestry. Yeah. That's where we're all from. Let's go with where we are now.
Okay.
And I think that women, feminists, because I'm not a woman, so let's just clarify that. So I think these women have ruined it for men so many times. The Me Too movement is the most disgraceful movement. It's like Antifa to me. Me Too. How many times do you think I've been sexually harassed? I mean, look at me.
I would assume a lot.
A lot. I've slapped men. I've kneed them in the balls. I've walked away. I've never gone back to that restaurant. Mm-hmm. I have done, but I would never ruin a man's career. Men are made differently. You understand that?
Harvey Weinstein doesn't deserve what he got.
Harvey Weinstein, let me tell you, I wish we could see every woman that claims to be a victim of Harvey Weinstein. I really would like that. Harvey Weinstein is one of the ugliest people I've ever seen, and he looks like he's ugly inside and out. Both.
Yeah.
And I've come across these producers, hence I'm not the A-list of all actresses, because I've laughed in the faces of rich producers that wanted to put me in a movie. To even think that that man there, with a face that could stop a clock, could kiss a face like this and lips like mine, let alone, God forbid, anything more, is a shock to me. But however, because the women in Los Angeles seem to be complete whores in the majority, I'm generalizing. There are some great ladies like me, there are some respectable girls like me, there are some wonderful people here. But I have noticed by living in LA and being in the industry, they are worthless, and they will sleep around with these men. They will sleep with a man who will put them in a movie. They will sleep with a man because he's got money. They will sleep with a man that they've just met. I can't understand it.
Well,
I wouldn't even kiss a man I've just met.
You're saying that what happened with Harvey Weinstein can't all be true because he's not an attractive man? Is that, am I understanding you correctly?
No, I'm saying that I bet you Harvey Weinstein said, if you sleep with me, I'll put you in a movie. And I think that these women, I say that on purpose, of course. I think that these women actually did have sex with this man, this unattractive man. So you're not doing it for his looks, and they weren't put in the movie. That's what I really think. For them to be that hateful, to go back 20 years later and say, me too, I had that happen to me. No, these are vindictive, nasty women.
Well,
heck, I've been on the receiving end with the fake news.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with you on that. Ashley Judd is one of the people that spoke up.
Okay.
Ashley Judd's a friend of mine.
She might be a minority, though, don't forget.
Well, she was one of the first people to really speak up about it. I'll tell you this, honestly. Ashley was doing a lot of work for a long time, and then all of a sudden, boom, her career seemed to disappear. And that was right around the time that the Harvey Weinstein incident supposedly happened with her. So, there's a good chance that what she says is probably true about Harvey Weinstein, basically having her blackballed and saying she's difficult. And Mira Sorvino says similar things.
There could be those too, but the majority of all these women jumping on the bandwagon, and look at poor Matt Lauer. I tried to reach out to his agent because
he had a lock, a buzz lock on his desk to lock the door in his office.
What was the woman going in giving him I hate to say the BJ word, but you know what men have, and a woman will go down on this. She did it every day, and she was on Megyn Kelly, who I love, Megyn Kelly. She was on Megyn Kelly's show, and she said, well, I would go back to his dressing room, and I would do that, and sexual encounter. It was not a sexual encounter. This woman gave Matt Lauer a blowjob.
I'm not talking about consensual situations.
She was the one who said it ruined my life, and then Megyn Kelly but it was consensual. She wasn't challenging. I'd have been challenging to this woman, but actually no. So Matt Lauer, it doesn't matter if he locked the door or not. He doesn't want someone coming in when you've got a woman on her knees giving a blowjob.
Yeah, but my point is that if he has a buzzer lock to lock his door from behind the desk, that he has a motivation. There seems to be a motivation to be able to trap people inside his office.
That's clever. That's the way a Democrat would think. I happen to know.
No, wait a minute.
But this woman was interviewed. She said, well, yeah, I'd go back and I would, he never took me out. One time they met for lunch. He said, when he'd call me to go into his dressing room, I'd go in there and I would have a sexual encounter. I wish Megyn Kelly said, what was that sexual encounter? Because I bet Matt Lauer never kissed her on the lips. I bet he never took her to dinner. I bet he never bought her a bunch of flowers. And I bet you all he got was an oral copulation. I know, but it's not something that Victoria says. But anyway, so she gave him that oral copulation, which is a disgrace. He never took her anywhere. There was no relationship. And on top of all of that, the woman knew he was married. So she's a double whore because she knew he was married. She would never be taken out by him. She was giving him oral copulation on his command. And this is what LA women do. And this is what's need to be exposed. Not all these poor men who've got away with it for so long because these women are saying yes to it. These women are doing it. So maybe the Ashley Judds of the world, the beautiful Ashley Judd, I know she's a lovely lady, I know she's a Democrat and hates Trump, but I take that aside, and I'm going to go with Ashley Judd. She might have been one of the few, but I think of the majority, I think the majority knew exactly what they did, and they're vindictive women, and they went against him because of that. But Ashley Judd might have been one of the innocent ones, so I'm definitely open for that.
Okay. But are men and women equal? Are they equal people?
When it comes to living life, I think that they are deserving to be in the planet equally. I think all people, as long as you don't break the law.
Women shouldn't be subservient to men?
I'm subservient to men, and I'm proud of it. Maybe that's why I've had such great, wonderful relationships, and sadly, I've broken everybody's heart. I did never mean to break their heart. But if a man says, Victoria, this is what we're doing, or I don't want you to wear that, if a man tells me that, I won't wear it. and I will dress like a lady, and I have an innie and I don't have an outie, and therefore you make a man wait when they start courting you. I can't use the word date because these LA women use that word, and it doesn't mean date because they don't take them anywhere, they just have sex with them. So I actually would say that when I am courted by a man, despite how attracted to the man I am, I'm going to make him wait before he gets to kiss me. I'm going to make him wait, and then it sometimes gets to the point where, is he ever going to kiss me? And men have such respect for me. And a lot of my girlfriends will say, how come they respect you like this? How come they're always calling you? How come they always want to see you? My guy just comes over and then he just has sex with me and he goes. Well, the truth is, the man is having sex. I don't tell them that, but the man is having sex with you because he's just using you, because that's all he sees of you. He has sex with you and he leaves because he's probably courting a beautiful lady or a lovely girl that he's spending time with, but he's getting his end away. He's getting his end away because men are made differently. They have to have that release, whereas females should abstain when they're not in a relationship. And that is where I'm coming from with all of this, if you understand what I'm saying. So
I understand what you're saying.
I love being submissive to a man.
Okay. Well, then be quiet.
Yeah, exactly. I like that. No. Make him breakfast in the morning or make him dinner.
Yeah.
He'll take me out. I'll never put my hand in my pocket.
It sounds like, to me, you're kind of making reducing all men to a certain stereotype, and in a certain sense, you're suggesting the woman that was with Matt Lauer that everything would have been okay if he had just bought her dinner.
No, he wouldn't have bought her dinner because she was already proven to be a whore on day one. On day one, that was explained by her out of her mouth. Please watch that interview. I'll send it to you. It's a wonderful interview. Wonderful.
Okay, send it to me. All right, we're already going over time, but I want to talk to you a couple more minutes about some of the work you're doing right now.
Okay.
And about Donald Trump, if you don't mind.
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay. Well, first of all, you are working for Mike Garcia right now?
Right now, not since COVID. I haven't done for 3 or 4 months. I was absolutely working for him, loving every minute, but that was the introducing him on stage. It was building him up, talking about him, and then he takes over. It was doing on-camera work for him. So I was working from different areas. So I haven't worked now probably for 3 or 4 months.
What is it you like about Mike so much?
I think he's perfect example of a conservative man who's young, was a fighter pilot, fought for our country. He's got a wonderful wife. She's got her own business, darling 2 little boys. He's a great, faithful family man, no scandals with him. His father was an immigrant, so he's of Hispanic blood. I think everything works into him being one of the best congressmen that we've ever had here in California.
Doesn't believe in the social safety net, though.
What do you mean social safety net?
Things like unemployment, food stamps, Medicare, Medicaid, things like that.
He thinks people should work and do all they can to work.
Well, not everybody can. I mean, like right now with the COVID situation, not everybody can find a job now.
Yeah, that I would agree with. We have to be on unemployment, or we have to have, I think, what is it called, PPP? So his wife's got her own business. I mean, she's suffering. And he's very hot on, is it AB5 or AB3? I think it's AB5.
But that's a state thing. That's
a state thing, yeah.
Would you say that he's a man of honor?
Oh, honor and integrity, absolutely.
Keeps his word.
Keeps his word.
He doesn't.
Tell me why.
He's promised to be on the show 3 different times. He promised to be on the show right after the primary. He refused to come on. He backed out. Then he acknowledged that he would come on, and after he was elected, he refused and he backed out. And then he was supposed to come back on again in August, and then he backed out again. And he says he will not come on the show because he was afraid of what he might say.
Let me answer what I believe.
That, to me, now look, I like Mike. I do like him. He's a nice guy. But that says to me, if you give me your word, which he did, and he's backed out 3 times, and he's afraid to come on the show.
He's not afraid of anything.
Well, then, those were his words. I'm afraid to come on because of what I might say.
I could say I'm afraid right now how this is going to be. It's all going to be edited. But no, that's just a matter of speech. He's not afraid of anything. He's only, I think, 43 years old. He obviously is so busy in Washington clearing up the mess of that woman.
Steve Knight found 4 times to come on my show when he was.
Steve Knight did what?
Steve Knight found 4 different occasions, including a debate, to come on my show.
But this wasn't when he was in Congress, was
it?
And this was cleaning up a mess of some woman who should never have had that seat. You see, Mike Garcia is cleaning up.
Let's not say that about Katie.
Well, God, what a mess she was in every way. What a disgrace. Well, she was a complete whore. She's a perfect example of an LA woman.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Okay?
Oh, well, I mean...
what a person does in her personal life is their business.
Well, it wasn't a personal life. She had pictures taken, and she showed herself to the pictures. Can you imagine having pictures taken and being a whore?
She said she didn't even have no knowledge of that happening.
With the bong and the legs open and all that, because I've seen the pictures. Everyone, I think, seen the pictures. So she might be a nice person, but she's got zero morals, and she's a perfect example of what I would say is a whore. An LA woman and a whore that never belong in Congress.
But she's a friend of mine, so I'd appreciate if you wouldn't call her that.
Well, she should work in a brothel. But as for Mike Garcia, conservative Mike Garcia, he's extremely busy clearing up the mess that Katie Hill made. Now, she might be a good person.
What mess did she make?
The mess she made in Congress, because
Like
she was
what?
too busy bunking. So she wasn't
What
exactly
mess did
doing her
she
job.
never. No. Wait a minute. Let's be clear on a couple of things, okay?
Yeah.
Katie may have had a personal life that you may not agree with.
Mm-hmm.
She never missed a meeting. Was one of the top-ranking new freshman congressmen in there, and friends with the close personal friends with the House Speaker. She was making a lot of public appearances, bringing a lot of notoriety to the Valley, Santa Clarita Valley. What somebody does in their personal life, as a conservative, you should agree with that. Is their business.
Okay,
And if she's showing up and doing her job, which she was,
missing plane flights because she was so drunk, things like that, coming late to meetings because of that. She wasn't
nothing
treating
to do with Congress. She was never late for a meeting for Congress.
Okay, that I haven't done my research on, but I
Okay.
do know she was drunk on planes and missed flights because of being drunk, taking prescription.
If she was drunk, I'll have to say she wouldn't be the first alcoholic in Congress.
Okay, having sex with somebody in the campaign or the team, whatever you call it.
She had a relationship with the campaign staffer.
And then
There was consensual.
Okay. But
No, I'm just. There are two sides to every story.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
And regardless of whether that was necessarily a good thing to do, it did show bad judgment. I'll give you that. But it was consensual and was not against the law. The second of the other alleged affair, there's been no proof to it. It was only an allegation made from an estranged husband. So and she is denied it top to bottom, and there's been no proof that it actually happened. So.
But whatever happened, Mike had to take over from somebody.
Okay, but you're saying that what she did was a disaster. What did she do that was a disaster?
All of that. I mean, representing Santa Clarita Valley and behaving the way she did.
Not the first congressperson to have a scandal.
Well, she's a female. She should know better. So, I mean, that brings it
Going
back to
back to
females.
okay.
If a man did the same thing, it wouldn't be so bad. As I said, men are outies, women are innies, and they should just behave differently. Otherwise, that's why she was treated like a whore. That's why her husband wasn't in love with her. Nobody was. They treated her like a physical piece of meat. And the pictures show that. And the way she behaved and why she's getting drunk showed that. Mike is an honorable man, and if he has been
come on my show though.
I'm going to answer for him, although I'm not speaking for him. I'm just going to say what I think could possibly be. There's such a mess that he has to now get, and he is a special election. I think there was two people here, one in Wisconsin. They have to take over from somebody who left that place in a rush. He's had a lot to deal with, and I would just hazard a guess that he will come on your show when he has time. I mean, I actually haven't spoken to him in a month, and I haven't worked for him, as I said, in over 3 months. So he's dealing with so much right now. He's dealing with Congress. He's dealing with, replacing this Katie Hill who had left in a rush. That means they left a lot of stuff
But
there,
on a
put it
bigger
that way.
scale about Mike, I'll say this. I do find it interesting that he can't, he hasn't done any in-depth interviews with any media at all since he's been elected. Any in-depth.
He might be being advised not to, because
is that right for a congressperson though? Shouldn't a congressperson be open to the public about who they are and what they do?
Oh, he is. He's always explaining
Not
what
if he's
he
not doing
signed.
interviews.
He can't just sit in a field like I can have got time to sit in a field because I'm not working right now. But I mean, I can sit in a field with you. I can't. He's in Congress. He's got 2 sons. He's got a wife. He's going back and forth, running back and forth like a blue-ass
Congressman
fly.
has 2 sons, and he found more than several hours to sit down with me on several occasions.
While he was in Congress, though.
While he was in Congress.
While he
was in Congress.
See, that I don't know about, because I know that Mike is covering for all of this special election.
All right. Well, I want to stay friends with him, so I'm going to give. I've already probably ruined it by talking about it.
No, I think you probably will get his interview, but let's give him after November and December, and then ask him again, because he's a man of his word. I mean, it's really a strong man. So I truly believe in him, just like I believe in Eric Early, who's running against Adam Schiff. He's another fabulous guy, very different to Mike Garcia.
You don't like Adam Schiff, huh?
No, I don't.
That's a shock.
No. And I think Eric Early is fantastic, and I work for him as well.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 different areas, so I have to do different jobs. Very unpolished. Mike is polished, but Donald Trump's not polished. And then you've got some people, President Obama was very polished. So politics is a diverse kind of personality of people. And
we've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
So let me ask you one quick question here, and I'm going to kind of trap you a little bit, because you got to answer it exactly based on the choices I give you.
Okay.
Barack Obama, great president or the greatest president?
Oh, he was a very bad president.
Why?
I'm not allowed to say that.
No.
He didn't get anything done. He caused a divide in this country. He started the race war. He started
the race war.
He actually set the fires, and now poor Donald Trump is trying to put them out. I believe so. But Obama was incredibly sophisticated. He was presidential. I will give you that.
Yeah.
He was. If I met President Obama, I would shake his hand, and I would have the utmost respect for him. And because this country keeps talking about color, which I wouldn't, it's wonderful that we had a lovely a black man in that position. I think that's great. I mean, I would rather Ben Carson and Herman Cain, who I adored. I would rather that. Ben Carson and Herman Cain. Herman Cain even more. I loved him. God, I loved him. That bloody woman ruined it. Anyway, so that would have been better, but I do admire Obama for being the first. And he was articulate, and he was charismatic, and he was gentle, and he was, again, a family man. He had good values. So I wouldn't agree.
Okay. Well, that was kind of more of a joke than anything else. But okay. Let's talk about Donald Trump.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is he a liar, first off?
No, not at all.
He's never lied about anything.
I don't know that. I can't say that. I think that maybe he screwed the whore, the porn woman. What's the porn woman called? Stormy Daniels.
Cousin of mine.
This is, we're sorry to be rude about a cousin of yours.
No,
I'm
I'm
so
just
sorry.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay, but she was a whore. I mean, there's no such thing as a porn star because they're not stars. They're just walking human toilets. They're like an old shoe at a bowling alley. Everything's been inside it. So
now, maybe you are overstepping your bounds with Stormy. So.
But seriously, I mean, cousin or no cousin, the point is there was no affair. He met that woman, I think on a golf course, and he got his end away within a few hours and never slept the night with her, never took her out, of course, because you don't take out whores. And then that's what he did. So what the media want to say is they had an affair. I'm telling you, they didn't have an affair.
No, it was a one-night thing.
It wasn't even a one night. There was no night, there was no dinner, there was no date. It was just sex.
But as a conservative, shouldn't it bother you that it was an affair? It wasn't an affair. It was still...
it was out of
adultery.
The marriage.
It's adultery, and his wife had just had a baby.
It was very wrong. What he did was extremely wrong.
But you're okay with it?
I'm not, because he should have used a condom. You don't put your willy in a hole.
That's not what I'm talking about. You're okay with the fact that he committed adultery, yet you consider yourself
I don't think it has anything to do with me. A lot of men probably commit adultery. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with me.
Oh my God, Victoria! But you're making judgments on all these other people saying that.
He's a man. He's an outie. He's not an innie.
Okay. Right.
Men and women are very different. We're made different. We have our great differences, and they should be respected and not melded together. So yeah, he was very wrong to do that to his beautiful, wonderful lady of a wife. To do that was horrific. But men are made differently. Maybe she hadn't had sex with him for 2 years. I don't know.
What about the payoff money that he gave her that was out of a campaign
to
situation?
shut the bloody woman up?
But that's illegal,
Herman Cain should have done that.
But it was illegal, though, because he used it as a campaign thing.
I don't know how that money is. So, you're telling me something I don't know, then it would have been wrong.
It's a felony.
Is it a felony? Oh, my gosh, I had no idea of that.
There are those that say that the reason he is so eager to be reelected is because while he's president, he can't be prosecuted.
For having sex with a woman?
No. That's not the issue.
Oh,
the issue is the payoff.
Got it.
That's what Michael Cohen went to jail for.
Got it.
And he is listed as person number 1. He's been identified as the person that directed Michael Cohen directly to do that. So that's a felony.
Okay, that is actually past my realm. I just know how he runs his country so brilliantly.
What does he do that's run the country so brilliantly?
Law and order. First of all, law and order. Having a country with borders. If you don't have a country with borders, you don't have a country.
You're okay with kids in cages?
Why the hell are they trying to break into our country?
Well,
it's like putting a child in a cage that breaks into my home. You're damn right. You'd be lucky if you go in a cage and not shot.
In most cases, okay, the people that are coming across across the borders, coming to this country, are leaving countries of extreme poverty and I'm struggling. I've had too much Red Bull this morning, but the country's has a lot of oppression toward women, or they're trying to escape gangs or whatever in those areas, and particularly in South America. Yeah. So I mean,
I've been to Guatemala, Honduras, and Mexico.
Okay,
I've lived in Mexico.
But you acknowledge that the United States is considered a country of immigrants.
It is a country. It's the United States.
It's built, but the United States is built on immigrants.
But they come in the country the right way, like I did. And if I had to leave,
isn't
my green card,
the most American thing in the world you could do is leave your own country, come to America with hope for a better life?
Yes, but they don't. What they do is they come and they take advantage of the system. And a lot of
Who's
them, not
they?
all, the people who don't want to speak the language, the people who want to go on welfare, and I'm going to say it, and don't be shocked, the ones that breed like rabbits. They will breed like rabbits because they can, and then they'll have their babies here, and they take advantage of the system. Those are the people who I do not agree this country should be open to.
The idea that they're on welfare is completely not true.
How dare they come here and be on welfare?
They can't.
Okay, well, they don't want to learn the
I used to be a food
language.
stamp caseworker. They have to be a United States citizen to receive food stamps. They can't receive welfare. That's not true.
They get so many payoffs. What is Governor Newsom doing with health insurance for illegal aliens? Have you ever heard anything so crazy? Who
Are you a
pays for that?
Christian?
I do. I am a Christian, yes.
Okay, then let me ask you a question. Why not give them health insurance?
Because they aren't. We've got enough people on our
You would
streets.
rather somebody get an infection and die.
No, I don't want them to die. I want them to be taken care of in the country that they were born and raised, in the country that they are legal to live in. I want to take care of our
What if someone said that
veterans
to you?
on the street. My gosh, absolutely. If they said, oh, you're living in Spain, you've been over your visa, you don't even speak the language of Spanish, which I do, you go back to England, I would have to go back and have the national health, and I'd have to be put on a waiting list because that's what I came from. And I was ready to go back because the doors were closing on me in America. And with the fact that I wasn't going to breed like a rabbit out of my choice, the fact that I did have and respect for the country and paid my taxes. So no, I would say that the people who come here, they have been told by the Democrats, you're going to get a free pass, you'll get free health insurance, you don't have to speak the language, don't worry, you don't have to assimilate with anyone,
But
you're going to get everything given to you
your
on a
argument
plate.
about that free health insurance, it actually benefits most people that do have health insurance in general right now. I mean, because what happens is if they don't have health insurance, they end up going to the emergency room. They go to the emergency room, they get billed like $5,000 or whatever. They can't pay it. The costs go back into the healthcare system, and we end up paying those costs. If they have health insurance, then it actually alleviates the costs.
The best thing is closing the borders so they don't get here in the first place unless they can come here on merit. And if they had said that to me before winning my green card in the lottery, I would have understood.
Isn't that kind of weird, though? I mean, to me, that idea of merit, it's like judging people and deciding who's better than others.
Because our country's full. Our country's
Our
got so many
country's
people.
full?
We've
I
got
don't know.
60,000, we're in a field. We're in a field on 130-degree weather. I mean, I'm exaggerating there.
Yeah.
There are 60,000 people and growing on our streets, of course in democratic cities, but on our streets. A lot of these are veterans. A lot of these people, yes, they don't want to get off the streets, but we need to take care of America first, the American citizens first, and especially the American veterans first who fought for our country before we take care of any illegal alien from any country. And if I was an illegal alien from England and I wasn't legal to be here, send me back first.
That's not what America's about, though. America's a giving and caring country.
And America's got to change because of where it's going now, with 60,000 people here in Los Angeles on the streets, and all the other democratic cities that have the same thing. This is where we've got to now reel it in.
You're under the assumption that just because they're a democratic city, that's why there's homelessness.
And then not only homelessness, but there's also look at Seattle.
There's homelessness in Los Angeles and Seattle because of the warm weather.
Because of the man.
Huh? No, not because of the man.
Not because of the oh my gosh,
because of the man. Oh my God.
No, but America's full. America's full. It's like we cannot take in anymore.
Why not?
We're not a charity case. Charity starts at home. Home meaning with the citizens of America first. It's America first. One flag, one America, one language.
Well, let's get back to Donald Trump.
Okay, please let's get back to him. God bless Donald Trump. Oh, got my earrings in.
The intelligence community, the Senate Intelligence Committee, released a report yesterday, saying basically there was everything involving Russia for him to win the election except direct collusion, and the only reason that there wasn't direct collusion is apparently the Trump campaign wasn't smart enough. They welcomed, spoke with, and communicated and collaborated with the Russians to help win the campaign. That's by a bipartisan Senate committee. 1,000-page report states that. Basically, everything the Mueller report said and then some. Wasn't that cheating? Is that wrong?
There was no collusion. I mean, surely something would have been found out. This is 3 years they've been trying.
No. The intelligence report that came out yesterday said there was not direct, not like a conspiracy kind of situation, but they were working with a foreign government, the Russians, and the enemy of this country, to try and win the election.
They weren't, though, you see. So this is where we're like so far off both
No. This is a bipartisan Senate committee.
Okay.
Okay?
Because I haven't seen that.
It came out yesterday. You should look it up.
I will definitely research that. But I haven't seen that. I just know that old Adam Schiff's been trying to get it.
It's not Adam Schiff. It's Senate.
The Senate.
Okay. And it's 4 Republicans, including what's his name, Tom. Cripes. Now I'm blanking on his name. But I mean, some of the most conservative senators are on that committee. Yes.
Tom Cotton.
Yes.
And
thank
you're
you.
saying that he now is saying that there was collusion.
He was part of the committee that wrote the report. Yes.
And he's stating this.
Yes.
This is something I don't know. My gosh, I wish I'd done the homework on that, but I didn't.
Well, it did just come out yesterday. I'll give you that.
Okay, yeah, and I'm pretty up on that, but
You should watch MSNBC. They'll tell you all about it.
but I want to see facts. I like to see the facts.
Well,
so I understand that news is going to be biased.
But see, you're under the assumption that everything MSNBC says is a lie.
Well, that Rachel Maddow, she's terribly good, but what comes out of her mouth is always ranting against Trump all the time. So you're not really getting the facts. You've got great personality. She's got.
You
I'd love to meet
you don't
her.
know that. I mean, you watch Fox News and assume everything they say is the truth.
But I also do research online. You know, I do research on things, and I do watch a lot of the
Do
committee
you believe
meetings.
in QAnon?
I'm not really into the conspiracy theory.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not into that. I do love my Lindsey Graham, and I do love it when he does hold a committee. So I do watch that online. You don't quite get that on any of the news stations. I watch how it plays out, and then you see the facts on all sides.
Lindsey Graham said that Joe Biden is one of the most honorable men he's ever met in his entire life.
Yes, he did.
He
and I
called
saw
Donald
that
Trump a
interview.
liar and a hypocrite and a terrible person.
There's not much about Lindsey Graham that I don't know. I have studied him for a long time. I find him extremely interesting. I do have a great respect for him, but I also know he changed his mind on Donald Trump when he got to know Donald Trump. So a lot of people will say he's a flip-flop, but I think we're allowed to change our mind on people. I believe there is a common respect that they have for each other. And I believe he is doing a lot of work. So is Bill Durham. So is obviously Bill Barr. I think they're doing something, and I just hope it all comes out before
Should
our
Roger
election.
Stone have been pardoned?
Absolutely. God bless him, that poor
He
guy.
lied to
should never have gone
Congress.
down.
He intimidated a witness.
Oliver Stone intimidated a witness?
Roger Stone. Roger Stone.
Oh,
Donald
sorry,
Trump's
I meant
friend.
Roger Stone. Yeah, I meant Roger Stone. He intimidated a witness.
Yes. Threatened to kill his dog.
Roger Stone threatened to kill a man's dog.
Yes, as a witness.
Now, I've got to be honest, I've never heard of that. I've never heard
It's
of
one
that.
of the things he was jailed for or convicted of.
I didn't hear of that.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Usually I'm up on these things. I did not hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, but he also lied to Congress.
Okay, I
So-
didn't.
I mean, you got. Let's see. Paul Manafort's not in jail anymore. Roger Stone is not
In jail.
in
Flynn
jail.
should
Flynn.
be completely cleared.
Really.
Oh my God, did you see what the FBI did to them? I'm waiting to see Comey go down, Clapper go down, Brennan go down. Love Hillary Clinton to go down. Not necessarily Obama, because there's still a lot of class with that man. But I'd love to see Hillary Clinton go down. Where are those
Why?
emails?
What's wrong with Hillary
Where are
Clinton?
those emails? Where are those emails?
I don't know, but Ivanka's been using the private server as well. Again,
But she wouldn't be smashing her computer with bleach and a hammer. Can you imagine Ivanka, that beautiful lady, inside and out, mind you, doing anything of the sort with a hammer? I mean, you got this awful woman, Hillary Clinton, who just thought she had won the election. And she's taking her computer and smashing it with a hammer. But who does that? Not even a man would do that. And then pouring bleach on it. Not very ladylike. So I just want to know, show everybody's emails.
Do you think Trump's going to win?
You know what? I was extremely worried that the independents and the people who aren't informed, like you and I, not my Democrat friends, I got lots of Democrat friends, they obviously won't vote for him, but the uninformed and the independents, I thought that they would think that Donald Trump caused all of this, which is not the case at all. Donald Trump has tried to stop it, but the Democrats so brilliantly, it didn't work with the collusion. It didn't really work with COVID, and now they've got the riots, and it's all crazy right now. And innocent people who aren't informed are going to think, oh, this didn't happen under Obama's 8 years. It's happening under Trump. And that's what got me worried. But thankfully, in just recent weeks, because I was worried for a month there, I think last month. In recent weeks, it's so proven that these are all Democratic cities. These are not Republicans in the street burning down police precincts and police cars and setting light to buildings and looting stores and stealing out of Gucci. These are not Republicans. I can promise you that. You might show me a Republican, but I don't think so. I think they're all Democrats, and I think they all want him to lose. All those people in the street.
Why wouldn't
and
police?
the man in Portland want him to who was knocked unconscious yesterday, I believe it was. 2 days ago. These are not Republican people, and it's so obvious, and it's not biased. This is what's going on in all the Democratic cities, and the Democrats are doing it.
I believe they're probably progressives, but I also believe that I also know that the root of the word progressive is progress.
Progressive Democrats that are doing this terrible stuff. I've got some
I don't think
wonderful
it
Democrat
depends.
friends.
It depends if how you define terrible stuff. I suppose.
Break it, burning down the country. I would say
Well,
destroying
I
the
don't
country.
support that. I don't support.
Okay, I know, but you're a reasonable Democrat. Like all my Democrat friends aren't progressives. I mean, I've got really strong Democrat friends that I've never argued with because I love them, especially my father's, the lady, I love her, she's a black lady, looks after my father. She's part of our family. We just adore her. But she has got a great-great-grandfather's slavery thing. But she explains things so wonderfully well. She's so knowledgeable. And she's my Democrat friend, and I love her. She's equal to me. There's no difference, and we don't need to fight. I don't think I've ever fought with Ellen. I love her. But there are some Democrats, and there are some radical Republicans. They want to just put down Democrats, and I don't want radical on either side.
All right. Well, you've done a pretty good job of putting down Democrats in this
I put down
podcast.
women who behave like whores. I put down people burning down anything against law enforcement. I'll put them down. I put down people who break the law, and I do say they're beneath me because I judge them, because I judge people on how they behave. I don't judge whether they're going to get into heaven. I just judge how they behave, and you don't behave like that in life. Country
Based
has
on
borders.
okay.
And the law and order.
Let's have a little bit of fun, okay?
Okay.
Just favorite movie.
Love Actually.
Love Actually.
Yes.
My wife's favorite movie as well.
Love it.
Okay. Favorite TV show?
Cops.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
I've never seen either.
You've never seen a Star Wars or Star Trek?
I don't like things that aren't real. I like nothing science fiction. I don't
Star
watch
Trek is real.
I've never watched anything science fiction.
You should watch Star Trek. Star Trek's real.
Okay.
Just asking people in Galaxy Quest. Let's see what else. Do you think Donald Trump is the greatest president ever?
I think Donald Trump is the greatest president ever, along with Ronald Reagan.
With Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
Very different.
And Margaret Thatcher, Prime
Minister.
Minister.
Good old Margaret. Okay. All right, and then I was going to ask you your favorite superhero, but when we talked about this the other day, you said you didn't know what a superhero was.
I think you said like Batman. I suppose Superman.
Superman. Okay, I'll
yeah.
take that.
Should be Wonder Lady, not Wonder Woman.
Wonder Lady.
Should be
really?
Wonder
Okay.
Woman. Oh.
All right, give me your best evil genius laugh. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. And do you know a joke? Can you tell us a joke?
Did you hear about the cop who pulled over the drunk driver and gave him an IUD?
No, I didn't.
As opposed to a DUI.
Yes. Gotcha.
Why did the skeleton not cross the road?
I don't know.
Because he didn't have the guts.
There you go. There you go.
That's my
That's
two
good.
little one-liners.
Bravo, bravo. Victoria, I do appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me in this heat. We're trying not to melt. And
Thank you, Steve.
It's been a fun and interesting conversation and certainly fun because we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum, but we got along and nobody fought, nobody threw things at anybody and everything else.
No,
so,
I don't fight. I really appreciate you having me on, and thank you so much.
All right. We hope you guys enjoyed the talk.
You've been listening to the Talk of Santa Clarita. Listen to us on iTunes, SoundCloud.com, YouTube, and Stitcher. Barring a life event getting in the way, a new podcast is available every Tuesday. Questions, comments, and show ideas can be sent to thetalkofsantaclarita@gmail.com. You can also call or text us at 661-505-8672. That's 661-505-8672. Follow us on Twitter at The Talk of SC or on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Talk of Santa Clarita. You can also visit our website by going to www.thetalkofsantaclarita.com. This has been a production of Radio Free Santa Clarita Incorporated, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. To donate, go to radiofreesantaclarita.org/donate. Radio Free Santa Clarita, on the net and on the air, and we're very much aware.
Any questions?